have you ever felt like have you ever felt like, there's somebody or something like trying to almost like sabotage you? Like every time you set out to do something, you set a goal, you say you're going to start your business, you say you're going to improve your relationship, you say you're going to make more money, you're going to, change jobs, whatever it is. And it always seems like something comes up. You get a flat tire, the car engine breaks down, there's a fight, somebody dies, like there's this horrible, like the Pandora's box opens up whenever you try to, change your life. And you may be looking at other people who are more talented than you. And what makes it even worse is when you see people less talented, less gifted than you become successful. And you're sitting around wondering, like, why is that not me? Why is that not happening to me? Like, is somebody sabotaging me? So I'm going to share with you, I was on a run. I was on a midnight run the other day. And I discovered something. I found I had like an epiphany, and I'm going to share that with you, exactly what I found out. And I think what it's going to do is it is going to allow you to have perspective on exactly what it is that's causing you not to have your breakthrough, and exactly what you can do about it so that you can start having the financial freedom, you can start having the time freedom, the location freedom to be able to enjoy your life, to be able to enhance the lives of the people that you care about as well. So as you come in here, I want you to hashtag live. I think I see you in there, Sanjay. Am I saying your name right? If I didn't, I completely apologize. I'm glad you're catching me live. Where are you catching me from? Where are you at right now? What part of the world? I'm here in the Philippines, so it's about 11:30 p.m. where I am. So this is what was happening. So I set out. I was going to run at midnight, right? And I got out. I'm doing my stretching because I'm getting old. I pull muscles easily now. Like I literally bent over a cough and I'll throw out my back or my hamstring or something crazy. So I was doing my stretching. It was just about to hit 11:59, and I was sitting there just kind of thinking to myself. Sanjay says, "Oh, it's from India. Awesome, man. I'm not sure what time it is there, but it's probably I'm assuming sometime in the afternoon. But yeah, I was about to take this run, stretching out, and I was thinking over my journey of like what happened, what caused my breakthrough, and I was thinking of like things I wanted to accomplish from here, because no matter like what level of success you get to, the whole, like, you climb to one mountain peak and then you look out at the horizon and it's filled with other mountains that are taller, that the views are different, that are better, and then you're tempted to almost stay at that mountain, but you feel the call to go see, I wonder what it would look like from that vantage point, and you take off to do your thing. So I was sitting there thinking about how I was going to grow, my coaching business, to the next level, how I was going to make more impact, how I was going to create more legacy in my life. And I started setting some goals. I started my little light jog. I was going to run 9 laps around my subdivision. So it was going to end up being around 3 miles, around 3 mile run, midnight. There's dogs barking in the midnight. Like there was just only people out were like this group of people that I kept passing on this lap. They probably thought I was completely bonkers, like nuts, because every time I passed by them, they're out drinking and I'm out running. Like this, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with enjoying, your time and then, taking time out of life, but I'm like, I guess, there's 2 different worlds of mindsets going on in passing each other in the night. And as I was running these laps, I noticed that, I was a Marine for, 9 years. So I'm no stranger to running. I've run long distances frequently or whatever, but I'm getting old in my old age. I got out in the Marines when I was in 2011. So it's been like 10 years. So as I was running, I felt my body starting to scream at me. My legs were burning, my knee was hurting, I was sweating, I was out of breath, and I was, running my 9 laps. And I got around about lap number 8. I was about to pass this same neighborhood, the same gate where the dog is like probably like 4 feet tall, and he jumps up on the thing and just like scares me half to death. My adrenaline pumps, gets me moving a little bit faster, so I actually did appreciate it. But I was running past it, and then I got a little bit past where this dog had done his thing, barking at me, and then I heard it. It was that voice. It started bargaining with me. It said, all right, so I was about to finish lap 8, and it was like, just like let number 8 be it. Like, you're tired, your knee hurts. It's like, and in the pain. And then, you can do this tomorrow. Like, nobody would know. You know what I mean? You could do an extra lap tomorrow. We'll just do the extra lap tomorrow. And I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm like reasoning with it, like, well, maybe. No, but I got it. Like, I'm already this far, but should I not? So I laid out this plan of where I was going to go, what I was going to do, because I have a goal. Not only do I want to be prosperous in my business, but I also want my mindset. I also want my health and my relationships to level up, because there's no point in having a whole bunch of money if you don't have your health, or if you don't have anyone to share it with. It doesn't make any sense. So I want my cake, my proverbial cake, and eat it too. But, this voice was trying to reason with me and saying like, man, it's midnight. Like, everybody else is drinking, everybody else is sleeping, and you're out here running. You already ran 8 laps. Like, you've literally ran over 2.5 miles. Like, call it a night. Your knees shot, you're tired, just end this. And I was coming up on my street where my house was, and I had a choice to make. Either I was going to turn, left and go into, my driveway and into the gate and going back to my house and, call it a day, or I was going to run that other lap. And I felt like, my emotions, what you focus on expands, and you feel it so much more intensely. And that's what our emotions do. It's like a magnifying glass. So it takes in this information, whether it be from your body or it be from the outside world, something somebody said, something that you saw on TV, something that, some experience you had, and it adds a frame around it. It puts it adds this whole context. So while I was running, the context was, you don't have to run this extra lap because of what's the consequences. Like, nobody's making you do this. This doesn't make you any money. Like, you ran 8 laps already. You ran 2.5 miles, and that's enough for your health already. Call it a day. And it was like, just fall short. Nothing. There's nothing to lose. And I almost listened to it because it sounded amazing. It was like singing this amazing, sweet lullaby, because my body was screaming at me, and my emotions were doing the same. And I realized, I don't know what it was, but for like a split second, I had this moment of clarity where I stepped out of myself and I saw things from a different perspective. If you ever going through this thing where you had these, there was these posters, these art boards back in, I think, like the 90s, early 2000s, where these pictures had these different colors. From one distance, you can't really tell what it is. It's just a bunch of like ink dots and random colors. But like, if you kind of change it around and move it closer, move it away, almost go a little cross-eyed, a little cockeyed, all of a sudden, out of the board, out of this thing, pops like an image. It'd be like it looked 3D. And this was like, super fad for like a while. But what it was this thing, like, you couldn't see the shape. You couldn't see the message. You couldn't get the true meaning of what you were seeing without the perspective. And the perspective came not with your normal way of seeing things. It came with this kind of like around and about. Like, drop a 1 in the comments if you know what I'm talking about. If you can relate, if that's making sense to me, or making sense to me, making sense to you. If that's making sense to you, drop me a 1 in the comments. So I was running and I pulled back from my thoughts. My thoughts were all these like jumbled like things going on, and pain. My knee was screaming, all these different things. And I kind of pulled back for a second, and an image appeared. And not like a physical image or anything like that. Like the image was a certain way that I was thinking. That, thank you, Sanjay. I see your one. I appreciate you. It's 9 p.m. there. So I pulled back, and then my thoughts made this image, and it made the image of an interesting person. You know, not interesting in the fact that, oh, this person was great. The person was me. I saw myself as my collection of thoughts, but not as like that's me, but it's something that I was observing from a distance. I realized that I had set a plan, a course to reach a goal. I wanted to run 3 miles that it fit into a small piece of my plan to get to a certain body weight and a certain type of health level, conditioning level. And this was just one step along the journey. It made sense. It was pure clarity of mind when I laid out the plan for my health. But when I went out and I started walking in it and I started taking it and I got into the story, then something happened with my emotions. Something happened with my past experiences, and all of it was jumbled up in front of me and in my mind and trying to tell me to veer off course. And ultimately, when I caught it, I almost did like a little bit of a gasp. I forgot all about my body. I was just almost like a disembodied type of situation. I'm like, pouring in sweat, and I made the decision and I kept going. And as I was running, other thoughts start flooding into my mind. And I was like, how, when else do I do this? Like, I know that, like, wait a minute. Why is this voice happening? Like, who said that? Like, who told me to just stop? Who told me to hold back? Who told me that I was tired? Who told me that nobody would notice? And I was like, it almost made me change paths. Because the goal that I'm on, if I just follow it, it gets me where I want to go. I mapped it out already. But what would have caused me to fall off path would have been that other little voice. And it started dawning on me. I was like, wait a minute. This same brain that's pulling this weird trick that almost made me stop just one lap short of my goal. It's the same brain that I'm using in other areas of my life, when it comes to business, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to all these other things. And I was like, where else are you trying to sabotage me? And if you ask the right questions, you ask powerful questions, you get powerful answers. Katya says, hey, coach. Hey, Katya, I'm glad you're jumping on here live. So I started asking myself these new questions, where the questions I was asking myself on lap 8 was, is it okay if I quit? Like, nobody will know, all these different things. Am I going to, should I make, these are the kind of questions I was asking, disempowering questions of myself. Should I do the final lap of what I committed to do to get to my goal, or should I call it early? That's a disempowering question. So instead I started asking myself, where else is this voice, is this thing showing up in my life? And I started noticing it not only in myself, but I recognized that pattern in past conversations with other people who I saw had all the talent in the world, had all the potential, had all the resources, but yet they laid out this course, this run, this journey to get to their end destination, and for some reason they didn't hit it. And they stopped just short. Like, I've seen people put everything in place and literally give up on the 20-yard line, the 5-yard line. James says, isn't that interesting, the stories we have in our mind? Yes. Sanjay says, great perspective. I can relate to it. For sure. Because I think we all have that version of the, almost like that whole angel and devil sits on the shoulder. And a lot of times we don't realize it because it's happening right underneath the surface. So like, I can think back to different times in my business where it was like, man, I need to do a little more outreach. I've talked to, let's say I set a goal. I'm like, all right, I'm going to reach out to 10 potential clients and make offers to get on to, like, a conversation, set a calendar so I can, make an offer to help them with their business or with their whatever. And let's say I talk to 8, and then guess what happens? those messages start to pop up. So it's not my knees this time because I'm not running, but it's like, oh man, I'm feeling kind of restless. My back kind of hurts. Might be a little bit dehydrated. I would call it. Now I did good. I talked to 8. I ran 8 laps. No need to do 10. And we hear that emotion. We hear that voice again, and we're faced with a choice because we've put a certain frame around it. And what ends up happening is if you have a certain frame with a certain meaning, the thing that gives it the meaning is the frame you put around it. Like there is no meaning out there in the world. Like I know that sounds really weird probably and really woo-woo or whatever. So I studied physics at the University of South Carolina, physics and advanced mathematics. And one thing that we dove into was the fact that I had to do these equations, right? We had to prove from like scratch certain things, from the Schrodinger equation, like all these different things that started to show and prove that the things we call the physical world, right? The things we call physical reality, the level of like dogs and tables and chairs and money and bodies and whatever. When you dig down to it, down to the core, like if you were to keep ripping layers off of it, rip it in half and rip that half in half and half, you get down to something that is no longer tangible and physical. And at the nature of reality, it's all just probabilities. It's possibilities. Particles could be here, they could be there, and these are the things that make up our real world. And what we do is we add meaning onto these meaningless things of possibilities that aren't even physically really in a definite spot. We add our meanings to it and we tell ourselves a story about what this information hitting our senses mean. And we have a choice. We can tell ourselves a disempowering story about it, or we can tell ourselves an empowering story about it. One leads to a certain direction and has a certain end on that path. And the other has a different one. So if you're ever wondering why some people can be less talented, less skilled and all these different things, yet you look and they're seeming to walk on water, it's because not because they don't have trials and tribulations. It's not because they don't get the same stimulus. It's not because they don't have the same, like negative forces working against them. It's that they make different decisions because they frame what it means differently. So right now in your business, I want you to ask yourself, where are you asking yourself or allowing yourself to have disempowering stories? You're asking yourself disempowering questions like, do I really have to do all the work? Do I really have to invest in myself? Do I really have to step outside of my comfort zone? Do I have to do it now, or can I just wait 6 months from now? I want you to ask yourself, and then ask yourself, this is how you can tell the difference whether it is something that is for you or against you. Assess your values. What do you want to achieve in life? What do you want? And go, does this thought or this question get me closer to where I'm trying to go or further away? That should be your litmus test. And when you start introducing these new ways of thinking and you frame the meanings, like an event happens, there's one way to look at it. And that way you ask yourself, does looking at this thing, which doesn't have any meaning out there, I'm the meaning maker. I put the meaning onto it. So because you reached out on a sales call and a person like rejected you and didn't buy, you put a frame around that. You say, well, that means I'll never be successful. Or that means I'm no good at this. I'm terrible at that. I'm a failure. I'm all these different things. You ask yourself, is that empowering or disempowering? What would be a better question to ask yourself? What would be a better story to put on it that would help you get to your goal versus sending you the other direction, that allows you to finish that final lap, which I did. I ended up running that final lap, and that lap, I was literally drained for energy all the way up to the end of lap 8. And when I had that thought and I put a different frame around what was going on, it was like second wind. Even though the knee pain was there, I was still sweating profusely. It was a different kind of air I was running in. And in your business, you can find your rare air by changing the perspective, asking yourself more empowering questions, and creating more empowering stories.